This is the ABR Sports Show.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to week one of the ABR Sports Show. I'm going to be your host, Aaron Broghamer, for the ride today. Along with me, we got Brent, Primus, and Ryan Teason, all three of us students here at Palm Beach Atlantic University. Today, we're just going to discuss the MLB Playoffs. We thought it was a formidable topic, seeing how we just had two wild card games, one on Wednesday night and one on Tuesday night. Tuesday night, the Pirates defeated the Cincinnati Reds, giving them their first playoff win since 1991. And today, the Tampa Bay Rays defeated the Cleveland Indians, giving them a spot in the playoffs. Well, to be honest, let's start off here. I don't really think that the wild card game should be technically a playoff. I mean, you work 162 games for one play-in game. That's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. But we're going to go through our playoff predictions. We're going to try not to show too much bias, me being from Massachusetts, and we also have a Michigan native here.
Let's go.
So, we're going to start off here. We're going to look at the first matchup. It's going to be Pittsburgh against St. Louis. And in this series, I mean, I think it's going to be the toughest series that the Cardinals are going to have to play in the National League. Pittsburgh's coming in fired up, and to me they look like a solid playoff team, but I think the Cardinals are just too good of an organization to lose in this series. They have the great pitching, the great hitting. They're one of the more well-rounded teams we've seen in Cardinals in the past few years, and that's saying something, seeing how they've got 2 championships in the past 10 years. So I really like St. Louis in this series. I'm going to go St. Louis in 5. I think it's going to be a very solid series. Then we're moving on to Boston and Tampa. This is an interesting series because I think it's pretty relevant that Tampa does have better starting pitching. But I think that the Red Sox, they just have, of course, I'm trying not to show as much bias here, but they just have such a solid core of players, 1 through 9 in their rotation, the starting pitching, the bullpen. I've got to give them the edge in a four game series there. And then we move on to Los Angeles and Atlanta. I think this is the matchup most big baseball fans are looking forward to. To be completely honest, I see Atlanta in 4 in this one. I do not see the Dodgers as a quality team. We'll discuss this in a second. We're going to get everyone's views. But, for me, I do not see the Dodgers as a team that can click well in the playoffs, and I really like this Atlanta squad. They've got a lot of young starting pitching, but they can do the job. They've proven to be consistent all throughout the season. And then we're going to move into Detroit and Oakland, another pretty interesting series because, well, Detroit's probably, I think, on everyone's radar as a better team. Oakland does have the home field advantage, which does give them an interesting race to give Detroit. So I just still think that Detroit's pitching is just too good. Colon's been excellent all season, but even in Game 1, he's going to go out against Scherzer. I don't see him winning more than a game. I gotta give Detroit that edge in 4. But we're going to move over here to Brent Primus, who's going to give his predictions, ALDS, and maybe we'll have a little bit of an argument for the division series games.
All right, I'll start with Detroit, hometown Tigers. The reason I'm picking the Tigers, not only to win the series, but to win the World Series, is because of the pitching. And playoffs is all about the pitching. I think everybody can agree with that. The thing with the Tigers, though, there's last year they choke jobs so bad. So I'm picking them to win it. I'm going to pick them in 4 over the A's. A's are a good team, obviously Moneyball, but I just think when you look at the star power between the two teams, Scherzer, Verlander, Fielder, Cabrera, they have to win a World Series at some point. And I think this is finally the year they do it. No?
We're not going to get into the World Series yet, but they have the talent to do it.
They do.
But there's a lot of teams with a lot of talent this year. So
all right. Sticking in the American League then, Boston, Tampa Bay. It's going to be a great series, I think. I'm actually going to pick the Rays here for a couple of reasons.
There's going to be a lot of good games.
I know you disagree with this one. I just like the Rays pitching, and I just think Boston. little layoff. Rays won 2 big wildcard games that they always had the momentum. The wildcard teams, if you look at the history, they always seem to have a good run in the playoffs because they've been playing. There's no rust. I think about the Tigers in the World Series. They sweep the Yankees. They get swept by the Giants. In baseball, you need to play every day. It's a big difference.
The problem I see with that is I really think that for the Rays to win this series, they've got to take 2 in Fenway, and I don't see how you can possibly win twice in Fenway Park in the playoffs. It's such a hostile environment, and yeah, I think they're gonna have advantages in both games. They're gonna have Price against Lester in Game 1, and I believe it's gonna be. I know it's Lackey going for Boston. I think it's gonna be Matt Moore, but you put a young guy like Moore against a seasoned veteran out there like Lackey. I mean, yeah, he's had some bumps in the road, but the one thing that scares me about Lackey is he does have a traditional head case situation. So I mean, he could get rattled in the 4th or 5th.
I think you go split though. They don't need to win both in Fenway. Split.
But but then you have Buchholz against Cobb, which is definitely going to be a great game in Game 3. That's a toss-up. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of good games this. And then Game 4, you're going to go Peavy and Archer. I don't see the Rays winning that game. I mean, Chris Archer's a solid young pitcher, but he's had over a 5 ERA in September, and you got Peavy coming in, who's a pretty good veteran.
And the Red Sox all year have kind of been that team of destiny. They look like 2004.
They look like a World Series team, but like you were saying about Detroit, do they have the star powers? I mean, that's certainly been a problem that's been addressed in Boston. They tried to go out and get Peavy to address that, but we'll see. Your thoughts on the NL?
NL. We'll start with Cardinals and the Pirates, 2 NL Central rivals. I'm going to go Cardinals for this one. If there's any team that you trust in the playoffs, it's the Cardinals. They've been there countless times. They've won the second most World Series, 11 World Series titles. If there's any team that I pick to make a run when you're not expecting it, it's the Cardinals. I think some people are expecting it this year. We'll see how they do. I think, and not only are the Cardinals really the team to look for to make a run, the Pirates are the team you looked for not to make a run. They're one of the worst franchises in the MLB. I thought they were going to choke all year. I give them credit for making it there. Going to the other matchup, I've been on the Dodger bandwagon all year. Aaron has not been. He's picking the Braves. I'm going to go Dodgers. And I'm going to go Dodgers in 5.
Originally I went Atlanta sweep, but I looked at it and I said you probably have the NL MVP starting Game 1. Is that game in Atlanta or LA?
Game 1?
Yeah.
I believe it's in Atlanta, actually.
I mean, that's tough, but I just don't see anyone beating Kershaw at any point. So, I mean, that's going to be tough. If they force a Game 5, there's no way Kershaw loses.
Yeah, and I'll give let me give my game series. I forgot to do that earlier. I got Detroit in 4. I got Tampa Bay in 5. St. Louis in 3. And I got the Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of uncertainty going into a lot of these matchups. But those are our our division series projections, and we're gonna move on to the championship series now.
Welcome back to the ABR Sports Show. We're talking MLB playoffs. Aaron Broghamer, Brent Primus, and our web guy Ryan Teason. Also NBA, not too much MLB, so he's sitting this one out, but he'll be back for the NBA, which starts up in just a few weeks. He'll be here soon. Anyway, we're giving our predictions, and we're going to go to Aaron Broghamer for his LCS predictions.
Yeah, so we're in the championship series. Just to give you guys a quick rundown of what I had in the divisional series, I had St. Louis over Pittsburgh in 5. I had Boston over Tampa in 4. Atlanta over Los Angeles in 4, and Detroit over Oakland in 4. So that would make our matchups St. Louis and Atlanta in the NLCS. That's going to be a fun one. But, like I said, I really like this Cardinals team. I really do. I mean, they've got a great rotation. They've got very solid lineup, a solid bench. I'm going to take the Cardinals in 6 here, just because I'm feeling really confident in them, and they've got a really interesting team because they've got such a nice core of veteran and younger players to give the spark. I mean, Matt Carpenter, second baseman for the Cardinals, hit over 311 this year. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He's kind of a traditional guy, but I really like him. And they got Alan Craig, Matt Adams, a lot of young guys mixed with Carlos Beltran, Yadier Molina. They've just got a really nice mix, and I think Mike Matheny's done a great job managing that team. I see St. Louis over Atlanta in 6 in the NLCS. And in the ALCS, of course, this is going to be interesting. I don't think that Brent and I can watch this in the same room. Me being a Boston fan,
we will not be.
Yeah, Brent being a Detroit fan. So that's what I got in the ALCS. And I'm going to take Boston in 7. I think it's going to be a great series. They're going to have home field advantage.
Yep. I don't want to go to Fenway.
I think Boston has just proven, like, once they can get past the divisional series rounds, it's pretty smooth for them. Of course, well, not really, because they went down 3-0 to the Yankees and 3-1 to the Indians in 2007 in the CSs. But I really like this Boston team a lot. Watching them 150 plus games this year, I just see such great chemistry between these guys. The pitching is so solid. You don't see sporadic starts where there'll be 7-inning shutouts one night and then 10-plus runs another night. They're just a very consistent team, and in my opinion, that's who wins the games is consistency, and not sporadic teams, which we've seen sometimes with Detroit. I mean, Detroit's had a rough September.
Yep.
Granted, they probably weren't going out there fighting for their lives every day like Boston had to be with the Tampa Bay on their tails for quite some time, but Detroit ended up having the smallest margin of gap with the Indians only, one game behind them.
Yep.
So, I like Boston over Detroit in 7 and St. Louis over Atlanta in 6, which would give us a 2004 review of Boston St. Louis, which Boston swept 4-0. So let's go to Brent on his predictions.
All right, I'll start with the NLCS. I also had the Cardinals and Dodgers, and of course we talked about the Cardinals being the team you trust in the playoffs, but the thing with the Dodgers is they are so stacked. And not only Kershaw or Puig or anyone else, but really 1 through 9 in their order, and all 4 starting pitchers they're really stars. And if they play the way they can play, I mean, they're going to win the series.
Certainly if all of them play up to their expectations, right. I don't think there's a doubt that they're a World Series team.
I think they will, and you don't think they will.
I mean, just look at the inexperience they have in the playoffs. I mean, Hanley and Puig and
when things go bad, it could explode.
It's definitely an interesting team. They could legitimately not lose a single game in the playoffs, and I don't think too many people would be surprised. They could
get swept.
Yeah, they could go 11-0, or they could go 0-3. And yeah. To me, it wouldn't be a surprise either way.
They had a losing record in September.
Yeah,
but I'll still pick them over the Cards just because of talent. I'll go Dodgers in 7. And then my ALCS is actually Detroit and Tampa Bay, which I think will be a great series because I think if anyone rivals Detroit's pitching, I think it's Tampa Bay because they have so many young studs. Who would have Detroit would have the home field advantage for that in the 2-3-2. I'll go Detroit in 6 for that one over the Rays. I think the Rays are good, but again with the star power, and I think Detroit will really be focused after. Being honest here, they got embarrassed in the World Series.
If it's Detroit-Tampa, I don't think there's a doubt Detroit wins. Another factor you have to recognize is that cold weather Tampa's going to have to play in.
True.
Late October, mid-October.
Detroit usually plays the Rays pretty well.
That's something that's honestly unsung in a lot of situations. Is you have a lot of players that are warm-blooded in Tampa, and come mid-October, even late October,
in that dome.
Yeah, you definitely see a significant drop in play. We saw it in the Phillies in the World Series, 2008 World Series. They just did not play as well as they could have, and I honestly think that the weather does have some part of it.
Yeah, it does, and but I mean, a lot of the players are from Venezuela or other warm parts of the world. But yeah, I mean, the Detroit players definitely get used to it more throughout the year. I mean, they
What
started
was
out.
it? Was the 2006 World Series when they were all wearing hoodies on their head?
Yeah, well, in 2008, the Tigers were picked to win the World Series, and they got last in the AL Central. They started out just awful, and it was really cold weather, and everyone said it was strictly because of all the Venezuelans come play. And
I don't want to blame it on the
No,
weather
it's
if they
the same.
lose, but
It's the same for both teams.
It'll be a factor,
It's the
which
same
will
for
make
both
it more
teams.
fun if it's Boston, Detroit. You got a pair of teams that
Absolutely.
very similar, I think, actually. Just they've been pretty consistent throughout, and so now we're gonna do World Series here. We're gonna jump to a quick break, and we're gonna bring you back with our World Series predictions.
Yeah, we'll be back with our World Series picks right here on the ABR Sports Show.
Welcome back to the ABR Sports Show, Playoff Edition, Major League Baseball. Your host, Broghamer here, joined alongside Brent, Primus. So far, we've gone through the Division Series and the Championship Series. So that leads us to the big show, the World Series, in which I have the Boston Red Sox against the St. Louis Cardinals. Two old school franchises here, and it's going to be interesting in this. But Red Sox have a history of playing well in the World Series, and I'm going to confidently take the Red Sox in 5. I think that St. Louis would be a good matchup against them. But coming down to it, when the Red Sox make it this far, they get work done, and they end up winning the World Series, 2004, 2007 World Series champs. But the years that they do not win the World Series, they've been knocked out in the Divisional Series. So it's definitely a risky team. You could see the Red Sox knocked off in the Divisional Series, but I'm going to pretty confidently say that they're going to win the World Series this year. From April 1st, they have just looked like an amazing team to me. Just consistent, just one of the greatest teams all season. And also, I just love the backstory behind it. I mean, how much better can you get than the Boston Marathon bombing? And that's such a big event, and
they put it out in the Boston Strong Glove in center field.
Yeah, the Boston Strong has been a big thing all year for them. I was actually at the game, first game back at Fenway. Nava 3-run shot to put them up, and I mean that was the most electrifying crowd I've ever been a part of, and that's what Red Sox Nation's really all about. And I think that Red Sox Nation is going to carry the weak parts of maybe their game, which I really don't see any. But yeah, you could say that they're definitely going to have a lower hand than other teams in starting pitching wise. I mean, let's be honest here. When they play the Tigers, it'll be they're going to be outpitched pretty much all series. You're going to see starters who are going to be favored over the Red Sox or the Tigers. But I think that Red Sox Nation is really going to carry them and, be loud and be proud, Boston Strong, and I see them 5 games over the Cardinals.
I'll say for the Red Sox, too, especially after last year's just debacle with Bobby V. They're hungry. We said we weren't going to go homer at the beginning of the show, but we're both going to go homer. I got Detroit and the Dodgers. And remember, the American League's got home field because of that All-Star game. I'm going to go Detroit in 6, just like the ALCS. I like the pitching. I talked about the Dodger star power. I do like the Dodger star power, but I like the Tigers even more with Miggy. If he's healthy, he could be hurt. Who knows? But Miggy, Scherzer's had a great year. He's going to win the Cy Young. Really the difference here, I really think that Verlander will pitch well in the playoffs. He didn't have a good year. He struggled. At times, he was the Tigers' 5th best starter if you really look at the numbers. But I really think that he's going to want to prove himself in the playoffs. The last few years, Verlander has been not that great in the playoffs. He had one good game last year, Game 5 ALDS against Oakland, 4-hitter, complete game. Last year in the World Series, Game 1, he had 3 home runs. He really, in big games, historically doesn't pitch well. I think this year will be just the opposite. Bad regular season, good playoff season. I do want to say, for the picks, the reason that I like the MLB playoffs probably better than any other playoff, the only one I would compare is the NHL.
NHL's great.
NHL's great, but the thing...
Starting up again tonight.
Yeah. The thing with the MLB playoffs, we're not going to count the play-in games, all right? We're going to talk about the 8 teams in here. I would say 7 of them have a chance to win the World Series. I'm not a believer in Pittsburgh. I'm sorry.
Go 6. Who else? I don't see the Dodgers or I don't see the Dodgers or Oakland standing a shot.
Oakland? I mean, Boston could win it. Rays could win it. Detroit could win it. I think Oakland could win it.
Too young.
Moneyball can't win it. You don't think?
Their pitching staff is too young. They got Straley. They got a rookie starting game too. You know.
Yeah.
They got Cologne.
Yeah.
I mean, Cologne's been great all season, but to me, I don't want him. I don't want him as my ace of a World Series team.
And let me mention too here, the team that we didn't really talk about was the Braves.
Yeah.
The thing with the Braves, no one really took them seriously. They're in the NL East, worst division in baseball by far. Not even close.
Well, it's interesting with the Braves. Well, one the record is inflated because of all the 19 teams against the Mets, the Marlins, the Phillies, and the Nationals, which the Nationals really just disappointed me.
They were supposed to be here.
They were, but the thing about the Braves is, I mean, the inconsistency sometimes that you see. I mean, look at Dan Uggla, led the team in home runs. He was either 1 or 2 on the team in home runs. Upton might have had more than him. And he's left off the playoff roster. Paul Maholm, who was their number 3 starter for most of the season, left off the playoff roster. They added Freddie Garcia, who they picked up late in the season. It's going to be on the playoff. So, I mean, granted, that's the division series. They might give him a shot in the championship series, pending they make it. But to me, when you're starting second baseman who's started 150 plus games, isn't even on the starting roster for the playoffs. I mean, that kind of that shows there's a little more work to do in Atlanta. I don't like the inconsistency in their outfield. Upton has been got 2 Uptons. B.J. Upton's probably been the worst signing in Major League history, hitting 150.
Yeah.
And Justin Upton's probably been the most inconsistent player this year. I mean, hits 12 home runs in April, hits 200 in May.
The Braves were actually on the cover of Sports Illustrated for their postseason preview.
Were they?
The Upton brothers and Kate Upton. They put all 3 of them on there.
ESPN's a joke.
That was that's ESPN. Sorry, Sports Illustrated.
Oh, Sports Illustrated. I think I saw that, but
would there be any reason you think to pick Pittsburgh?
I think just watching that game last night against the Reds. I mean, you saw that atmosphere. I think an atmosphere like that. Yeah. They single-handedly gave them the lead last night. I mean, the chance for Cueto. Cueto was so rattled he gave up 2 home runs in the 3rd inning. That was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my entire life. I had never seen a pitcher get so rattled from a crowd as I did last night.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Pirates fans are pissed off. It's been 21 years that they haven't done anything, and they got better too. They made a great trade for John Buck, and granted, Buck's probably not going to play in the playoffs, but Marlon Byrd, who's been tremendous.
Is Morneau playing in the playoffs?
Morneau's hitting cleanup. Morneau hit cleanup for them yesterday.
They're going for it.
They made
the Steelers suck. What else are they going to do?
They made a lot of good moves, and they're playing risky right now. They're playing with the big boys, and I really love Garrett Cole too. He's one of my up and coming future stars. As a rookie with Jose Fernandez and Matt Harvey, he's been the guy left in the dust, but look at his numbers. He's been a tremendous asset for Pittsburgh, especially in September.
Are they kind of like, would you say, the 2008 Tampa Bay Rays? You don't expect them to be there. They finally are there. The Rays should have won the World Series that year.
I think they're a little bit different. I think the Rays had better starting pitching.
Yeah.
I think the Pirates have a better lineup. And, but, I mean, I guess I see some similarities. And, well, the thing is, Pittsburgh has fans. Tampa doesn't.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see Tampa Bay against Boston. There's gonna be more Boston fans there than Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So disappointments this season in the playoff or in the MLB. I would have to go. Giants number 1, Nationals number 2, Blue Jays number 3. Any difference?
I'd go Nationals number one. I mean, they were favored.
I
I
mean,
think,
World
in
Series
Vegas.
team though.
I personally didn't think the Nationals were a World Series team, but they were favored in Vegas. They said World Series or bust.
Oh, the Giants though. I mean, they won the World Series
Yep.
2012.
Yes. I'd actually go Giants or Blue Jays too. Obviously.
Yeah.
The thing with the Blue Jays that worried me the whole time is that they got all the players from the Marlins, and the Marlins were awful last year.
Yeah.
But the thing with the Blue Jays, they did win 10 in a row at one point in the year. Thought they could make a run.
It'll
The
be interesting
Nationals
what
got
they
hot at
do.
the end of the year.
It'll be interesting what the Blue Jays do next year. They got almost no money to play with anymore. But I think that's all we're going to have for today.
Yeah.
If you want to, we have a Twitter handle. It's at ABR Sports.
Yeah,
And
we are going to have Ryan Teason, actually. He's really our he's kind of our webmaster. He's going to run some of the
Give us
social
the
media
lowdown.
stuff. Ryan Teason, just kind of talk about the show and where to find ABR Sports.
Yes, I will be designing a website soon. Haven't started on it yet, but expect one up in a couple weeks. But as of now, just follow our Twitter at ABR Sports for all your sports updates.
Signing off here from Palm Beach Atlantic University is Aaron Broghamer, Brent Primus, Ryan Teason on the ABR Sports Show. Our MLB Predictions Playoffs 2013.